and wonderful guest within the next 45 minutes. I'm going to take you on a guided tour of Cape Coast Castle. Your questions are actually welcome. You can contribute to what we're doing as well. Now, before we start, we have 3 castles in Ghana. The first one being built by the Portuguese 1482. That is about 538 years. It's actually the biggest and the oldest European stone in sub-Saharan Africa. We have another castle in Accra, Osu Castle, built by the Danes, 1661. 358 years. Second biggest, second oldest. Cape Coast Castle is the youngest and the smallest, built by the British in 1665. 354 years. The Elmina Castle wasn't built as a slave castle originally. It was built as a normal trading post. The Portuguese stayed there until the mid-1500s when they started moving Africans from Africa to Europe. And the first European nations they took them to was Lisbon in Portugal and Seville in Spain. But then in 1600s, they started moving Africans from Africa straight to the Americas. That was where they sent them to work on the fields. They actually did transatlantic slave trade for more than a century before other European nations decided to travel to Africa to take part in the trade. Now I'll tell you what, when the Portuguese began the trade, they were actually getting Africans by raiding villages. But then there came a time they realized that we can't always go out there and raid villages of its people. So let's go to Africans and get Africans from them. If that's the case, who are they going to get Africans from? Mostly tribal leaders, because there were lots of intertribal wars around. With the intertribal wars, people would be taken as prisoners of wars. Originally, Africans were using them domestically for fishing, farming, construction work, and lots of other stuff. But there came a point when the Europeans asked them for people. The Europeans made them aware of the fact that we need people to work elsewhere too. So it was okay Africans supplying Africans to the Europeans. Whenever Africans brought Africans to the white man never gave Africans money because European money at that time had no value to any African around here at that time. That's why they were practicing the barter system of trade. They exchanged materials. The Europeans will get gold, ivory, spices, and African men, women, kids from Africans. But then on the other hand, Africans would get guns, gunpowder, whiskey, rum, teacups, ceramic plates, cotton textiles, and several other cheap European items. They'll get all these things, but you realize that the Europeans will move everything from Africa to the Americas and to Europe. They'll feed the industries out there with whatever they got from Africa. The money that actually came out of it, they built Europe, they built the United States of America. And what did they do for Africa? They left it for dead. This theory is what we call the triangular trade. Now, the trade actually lasted almost 400 years. Are we as Africans saying that at some point we never realized the horrible stuff Europeans were doing here? You know, people figured it out. They realized it. They knew what was going on. That's why some people stopped trading with the Europeans. But then some still went ahead and did it anyways. It's just like today, where people try to, draw contracts and they realize that, hey, this is going to damage people's lives, but hey, some kick against it, some still go ahead and do it anyways. The love of money is the root of all evil, right?
That's true.
That is why sometimes I stand here and say that without the African involvement in the transatlantic slave trade at some point, it wouldn't have lasted 400 years on our continent. It's very difficult to talk about it, but it is what it is. Before they sent anyone into the dungeons, a group of Africans that found themselves here were owned separately by lots of European companies. So in avoiding confusions amongst themselves, they would just put metals with initials of theirs on them into fire. They pull it out, the people will be branded. After branding them, they will send the men down into the male dungeon, women into the female dungeon. But then there were some people that always decided to fight for their freedom. They found themselves in a condemned cell, and I'm talking about the men, they were killed. Women were sent to the female punishment cell. We are going to see all these places, but we will start with the male dungeon. Your questions are welcome. Please come. it easy, man.
You okay, baby? So this is the male dungeon. It's the male dungeon cells. So this how it was, dark like this?
This is the original state of the dungeon. This is the original state of the dungeon. And wonderful guests, starting from where we are all the way down to the last point, this whole space will be the male dungeon designed for about 1,000 African men. The 1,000 African men, mathematically, each of these 5 rooms held about 200 people. You know, while they were here, they placed wooden buckets around. If you want to visit the toilet, you have to go to the bucket. But for 24 hours and 3 months of their stay here, all the men were in shackles and chains. These holes were the only source of light and air, but it wasn't covered, so flies always entered the dungeons. Can you stay here with mosquitoes, houseflies, cockroaches, and all kinds of insects? Here, you can't. But they had to stay in it. And there were diseases like diarrhea, malaria, fever, and others all over the place. But you know, people made the effort moving from where they are to the bucket, but normally, if you have diarrhea, you have shackles and chains on you, and the population here is slowing you down, it's difficult for you to make it to the bucket. You will literally defecate on yourself on the way. That's why the majority of the people had to stay where they are. They just defecate, urinate, and stay in the same place. They had to eat twice every day in the palm. You eat in your palm tells you the food you are getting is nothing to satisfy you, but to keep you going. And the hand you're going to use in eating will never be washed. Because you stay here in the dungeon for a maximum 3 months without taking a shower. The most they sometimes do is come here, splash water on the people to cool them down because it's hot in here. And the floor of the dungeon was built a bit higher than each other. From ascending order, starting from the first room to be sunk in the last room. But then imagine yourself staying in the 5th room with every liquid waste running through here, going all the way down into the 5th room and entering the ocean from that. By the time they moved people out of the dungeon, some will be dead. They will pick up the dead ones, throw them into the ocean, knowing very well that if I throw a dead body into the ocean, the body will come lying on the shore the next day. They will tie it up with stones or cannonballs to sink it.
Oh, man.
And because of the darkness, whenever they moved people out, they literally went partially blind. You know, Europeans were not only in Africa to make money, they were also here to spread the gospel. That is why they built churches in the castles they had. And here in Cape Coast Castle, they actually built the first church of England above the dungeon. So they will be there worshiping God. As they did, people were here going through this. And together, Christianity slave trade lasted here almost 200 years. What do we make of that? Sometimes people come here saying, that's the reason why I don't go to church and stuff. It's acceptable, but hey, we as human beings, we always hide behind religion and do very insane stuff, all in the name of money. We do it. But then I've always believed that if a person belongs to a certain spiritual body, it's always about a heart and the good you use that to do in other people's lives. Intention. Well, I would love for us to go down that way and see other places. If you want to take some pictures, please allow it.
What's your favorite? So I could have been staying here for 2 minutes. So dungeons where they kept Africans for men. This side was for men.
Yes. So that's the first room. That's the second. This is the third.
Okay.
Fourth and the fifth room.
And you said 200 per room.
200 per room. Yes.
And I'm sure they died on each other.
Oh yeah. All the time. All the time.
That was the first one we was in. This is the second. Each held 200 people, 200 African.
Now,
Only source of air and light. This is the third room.
when you are up there as well, whatever cry, whatever noise that goes on, you will hear it at the top. But then the question here is, even if the Europeans had the people's cry down here while they were at the top, did any help ever come from above within 200 years? No. On the other hand, whenever they sent people from here to the other side, they were always looking to convert them to becoming Christians. So whatever they were made to go through here was a psychological game.
Brainwash.
I work on you psychologically, you get to the other side, you will think that your religion is horrible. Mine is better because I'm always out there singing, having fun, worshiping my God. Meanwhile, you are here in misery, in shackles and chains, in darkness, sleeping beside a piss and poop, which is not right. Your God has abandoned you. Come to mine, and your life will change. It's as simple as that.
We're walking into the fourth room, which is about the size of a living room. That's the fifth room.
Yeah. This is the last room. And here there is more natural light than the other rooms we've seen with light bulbs. And you can see a shrine right here which is active. People still come here to worship to date. And there's even a priest in charge of it. But then, this wasn't here during the slave trade, but it was on the land before the Europeans even came here. The chiefs, after giving this land out, found out that it's best they take this out of here because the Europeans were fast developing the area. And they realized if care is not taken, they will never be able to come here and worship anymore. So this was taken away into the town. But around 1960, Ghana became a republic, meaning all the Europeans moved out of this nation. When they moved out, the chiefs found it out and decided, if they are gone, let's return the shrine to this land. When they came here, this building was here, so they found this place to be the right place to put it. They erected this and brought the stones and took away back. And these stones are the very original pieces they took several years ago. At the back of this is a very thick wall which has been used to cover up something. And that something happens to be an entrance of an underground passage. And that actually connected the male dungeon and the door of no return about 70 meters from here. A very long walk. Whenever the ships came, all the men were made to go through the tunnel. Late in the night, when the town is very quiet and asleep in shackles and chains, they were being moved in by their own African brothers, whom I call African overseers. They held lanterns and hoods, making sure, whilst the Europeans were out there at every checkpoint, checking, making sure things are going smoothly in the passage. Now, you go through the tunnel with all the lanterns and shackles and chains on you, pulling your brother with you. You realize that you find yourself at the door of no return, being very weak, with little oxygen breathing in there. When you are that weak, it makes work much easier for the Europeans to do because you are so weak you don't have the energy to fight and free yourself. But they blocked off the underground passage around 1833, when the slave trade was abolished amongst all British colonies in West Africa. So there is no way we can go through, but when we are, we can see parts of it and we can walk on top of it. And all the wreaths you see here were prepared by Africans from the diaspora. They bring them in all the time to pay their respect to their ancestors that had to go through all these. That's why we see them all over the place.
These were made then, or these are like replicas?
Well, these are the very stuff they bring all the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just to pay respect
Okay.
to the spirit of the ancestors that had to, suffer all these things. Yeah.
Okay.
Is this the same place that the first black African Americans came here and slept? Remember, there was a room. This is the room that they slept
this is the same place. This is the same place.
So there were remnants of people like sleeping here, sleeping back, just to kind of.
This is the same place. Yeah.
So before there was introduced the church
Uh-huh.
religion.
That's right.
This is basically
Yes,
what they
African
worship.
traditional religion was basically what we were all doing. African traditional religion.
Okay.
Believing in the existence of the supreme being, worshiping him through lesser gods, believing in the spirit of the gods,
Gods,
native
okay.
things of nature, which means you literally worship Mother Nature.
Okay, got
You
you.
worship God through Mother Nature.
Nature.
But then the Europeans came and they said, it's idol worshiping. How can you worship a tree? To worship God through a tree. Through a mountain and all of that stuff, then everything changed.
Okay.
Well, let's go out and enjoy some fresh air.
Okay.
Please come.
I don't know how they did it.
I know where.
Look how long we been here.
No, I'm sorry.
3 months.
So we going outside. We was inside the dungeons where they basically kept the Africans. We saw 5 rooms which they kept the males in it, 200 in each room. We also saw the first religions before Africans was forced to Christian, the church religion, should I say. So now we stepping outside. This is hard, man. This is real hard. It's my wife in a gold dress.
So after walking out of the darkness,
It blinds you, kind of blinds you, yeah.
blinds you. So that's what people went through whenever they brought them out of the dungeons.
Okay.
This building right here at the top happens to be the church on top of the dungeon, which is now a children's library for kids around here to come here and study, but because of COVID, it's locked down. While the Europeans were coming because of the churches, they were bringing missionaries.
Okay.
But there came a time they decided it's best we send Africans abroad, train them so they will come here and work. And that's exactly what they did, sending African boys to England and to several parts of Europe all the time. This man right here, Philip Keiko, happens to be one of those boys. At the age of 11, himself and 2 other boys were sent to England. And these were all 100% black kids.
Actually, she want to know if those are graves.
Yes, these are all graves.
Wow.
And so Philip Keiko was sent to England at the age of 11. That's where it stayed
That's
and
Philip
became the
Keiko.
first black African to be ordained an Anglican priest at the age of 24.
Wow.
And then they brought him back 25 years of age to work as a priest and a schoolmaster. He stayed in a castle for 50 years working as a missionary and a schoolmaster till he died on the 17th of October 1816 at the age of 75. Then they buried him right at the courtyard of the castle. C.B. Whitehead was an army officer and a lawyer who came in around 1810. He worked for 2 years. So in 1812 he died at the age of 38, and what killed him was not documented. Letitia, Elizabeth London, and George McLean were husband and wife.
So that's where they was buried.
It was George McLean himself that came here first around 1830 as
This
president
is
of the
actual
British Frontier
graves
Merchants.
of those people he's
The
talking
wife
about.
only came to visit around 1838
Wow,
because
wow,
she was
wow.
tired of staying 8 years away from the husband. And every woman will be. But when she got here within 2 months, she was found dead in the husband's bedroom. There were rumors that she poisoned herself out of jealousy. Others
You got
also
it,
say
but-
she died of malaria, but most were mentioning it was George himself that poisoned the wife. You know, after the wife's death, the man still stayed with his African girlfriend for about 10 years until he died. Then the lady moved out of Cape Coast for Accra and never came back here. So looking at the whole thing, it could be that the man had a hand in the wife's death, but we don't say. And looking at their story, that saying once you go black, there's no turning back,
Yes.
is somewhat there. Yes. The view up here is very beautiful. So what I want to do is I want to give you all about 180 seconds for a couple of pictures and then
Oh, continue. Okay.
Thank you.
So this is the outside view of the castle. Wow, look at how beautiful this is. Oh my God, look how beautiful this is. Post out a couple of pictures. Baby, take a picture. You ready?
Got it?
Yeah, come. Come. You see I'm recording it still? But just hold it, but press that and then take a picture.
Okay.
Yeah, hold it. But keep facing it, I'm recording this stuff. Moving this stuff. All you gotta do, press that.
Okay.
Still recording.
You take a picture of me?
You wanna take a picture? You look beautiful, baby. Look at my queen. Oh, I love her. I love this black woman. Yeah, I'm gonna take one more. Yeah, look like just like that. Boom. Boom. All right. So these are like, what is this, like war guns or something like that?
Yeah.
Oh, it is.
Baby, record me.
Now look, because look at this the ammo.
Record me walking.
Where you want me to go?
Just press the circle and record me walking.
All right. Look at this girl. Boom. 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 How queen? How queen? How queen? You're probably gonna have to So this is like the let's say the bullets basically, but it's the ammo for they're using these during war times to shoot anybody who's coming on shore to attack them. This is amazing. This is such an amazing experience. Such an amazing experience. Such an amazing experience. Oh my God, this is beautiful. Oh man, such an amazing experience. Come on, baby. I think he's ready for us. I wonder what's in this hole right here. I guess he's going to tell us about it.
The tunnel I talked about connecting the dungeon and the door of no return, we are the moment on top of it. So the men will walk down, and as they did European soldier, will be here. There'll be one over there as well. Two on the side, bless you.
Bless you.
Thank you.
Two on the side with their guns, always checking, making sure everything is going smoothly in the passage. Now, all these cannons and cannonballs are very much original. Made of cast iron, imported from Europe. These were all used in protecting the castle from attackers. The attackers were other European nations who also wanted to come make money.
Off the Africans, basically.
Exactly. But then when they come and they are interested in the space, they fight whoever that is there, they defeat you, they take your space, they also use it. That's how come this land was occupied by about 5 European nations, from the Portuguese all the way down to the British. And while the British were here, they made sure they had all these arsenals around the building protecting themselves from the others who were going to come. And yes, of course, the French came, the German Brandenburgers came, the Dutch at some point came back, but they all never succeeded, because the British were very much on top of their game at that
It
time.
was powerful.
Mm-hmm. So they was basically like, they was strong.
Very. England it's a very small country,
Yeah.
but if you look all over the world, they colonized more nations than any other European
Anyway,
nation.
yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
They did.
So they were that crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was real deal. Better than blood niggas.
Really?
And Crips.
And in the whole world, if you are talking of gold,
Yeah.
the Queen of England does not mind gold, but she has got more gold than any other person.
Wow.
Than any other big individual in the world.
Wow.
Who is that?
Queen of
Queen of
England.
England.
Oh, wow.
And it's the gold that actually makes their currency. biggest.
Look out, yeah. So this was like the ammo. I'm gonna look, let's mess with this brush thing. Hopefully I don't get